Good day, everyone. I'm Junel C. Iscalikas, and I'm here to present you one of the novels of Dr. Rosa Rizal, which is the Naulimi Tanger. But before we go to our lesson, let's find out who is Dr. Rosa Rizal and what is his purpose in writing this novel. Dr. Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Rionanda was a Filipino nationalist, writer, and polymath active at the end of the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines. He is considered a national hero in the Philippines. He was born on June 19, 1861 and died on December 30, 1896. Dr. Jose Rizal also studied in four universities: the Colegio de San Juan de Letran, Ateneo Municipal de Manila, University of Santo Tomas, and Universidad Central de Madrid. His parents are namely Teodora Alonso Rionanda and Francisco Mercado. He has 10 siblings. They are Pasiano, Josefa, Saturnina, Concepcion, Soledad, Narcisa, Trinidad, Maria, Olympia, and Lucia. Is of Dr. Rizal in writing the novel. To defend Filipino people from foreign accusations of foolishness and lack of knowledge. To show how the Filipino people lives during the Spanish colonial period and the cries of woes of his countrymen against abusive officials. To discuss what religion and belief can really do to everyday lives, and to expose the cruelties, graft, and corruption of the false government, and honestly show the wrongdoings of Filipinos that lead to further failure. In the novel's dedication, Rizal explains that there was once a type of cancer so terrible that the sufferer could not bear to be touched, and the disease was those called Nolimi Tangere, means do not touch me. He believed that his homeland was similarly afflicted. Let's go to the setting. The setting is 19th century in the Philippines during the latter years of the country as Spain's only colony in Asia. The setting of Rizal's novel Naulimi Tangere was mostly in San Diego in the province of Laguna. So we're done to the author's life, his purpose, and the setting of the novel. So let's proceed to the major characters. The first one is Crisostomo Ibarra, a young mestizo returned to the Philippines after studying in Europe and hated by the friars because he studied abroad. The friars labeled him as a heretic. Ibarra is the novel's protagonist, the mestizo son of Filipino businessman Don Rafael Ibarra. He studied in Europe for 7 years. Ibarra is also Maria Clara's fiancé. Second, Maria Clara, a woman with grace and poise. She grew up with Ibarra and planned to marry him. When she heard Ibarra's death in the newspaper, she decided to enter the religious life of a being nun. She was raised by Capitan Tiago de los Santos and his cousin Isabel. In the latter parts of the novel, she was revealed to be an illegitimate daughter of Father Damaso, the former curate of the town, and Doña Pia Alba, Capitan Tiago's wife, who had died giving to birth to Maria Clara. Third, Padre Damaso, a corrupt Spanish priest who only wants wealth and power. He only thinks of himself and do no care about the Filipinos. Next is Capitan Tiago, a native-born wealthy Filipino. He only wants his daughter to marry an influential man from a wealthy family. Capitan Tiago is said to be the richest man in the region of Binondo and possessed real properties in Pampanga and Laguna de Bay. The next, Elias, He is the one who saved Ibarra's life in the school's benediction ceremony. Piloso Potasio, an old man with great knowledge of philosophy, he gives Ibarra advices and helps his father before him. The next one is Narcisa or Sisa. Is the deranged mother of Basilio and Crispin. Described as beautiful and young, she loves her children very much but cannot protect them from beatings by her husband, Pedro. Crispin is Sisa's 7-year-old son. An altar boy, he was unjustly accused of stealing money from the church. The head sexton beats him to force him to return the money. Basilio dreams that Crispin dies of the beating. Basilio is Sisa's 10-year-old son, an acolyte tasked with ringing the church bell for the Angelus. He faced the dread of Crispin's death and his mother descent into insanity. The next is Salome. Is Elias' sweetheart. She lived in a little house by the lake, and though Elias would like to marry her, he tells her that it would be do her or their children no good to be related to a fugitive like himself. Lastly, Doña Victorina de los Reyes de Espadaña, commonly known as Doña Victorina, is an ambitious Filipina who classifies herself as a Spaniard and mimics Spanish ladies by putting on heavy makeup. So let's proceed to the plot. In this, we will tackle the exposition, rising action, climax, and falling action of the novel. The exposition and introduction. The novel is introduced in the late 19th century, and the Philippines is a colony of Spain. The Spaniards living in the Philippines have a superiority complex. They think they are superior to the Filipinos, who they call Indios. This causes the blatant manipulation, racism, and brutality of the friars and the Spanish government throughout the story. In the rising action, the religious and government leaders decided to celebrate the new educational building the same day as the fiesta. During Padre Damaso's lengthy sermon, Elias approached Ibarra to warn him that someone wants to kill him during the school's blessing ceremony. And thanks to Elias, Ibarra was saved. In the celebratory dinner, Padre Damaso came uninvited and bedeviled Ibarra in front of the town's high-ranking officials. But when he hears Padre Damaso cursing his dead father, his anger burst and tackled the priest down with a knife in his hand. But Maria Clara swiftly snatches the knife from his lover's hand. The church excommunicated Ibarra. He is not allowed to receive any sacraments until he changes his beliefs. But the Captain General lifted Ibarra's excommunication because of Ibarra's contribution to the society. In the climax, Ibarra continues to build the secular school for the town, while Padre Salvi hatches a plan to make Ibarra gone for good. Padre Salvi and Lucas rallied a band of rebels to attack the Guardia Civil's barracks and blame it into Ibarra. Padre Salvi rushes the ensign to report it and save him from being a suspect of these wrongdoings. It all goes according to Padre Salvi and Lucas' plans, and Ibarra is arrested. He is found guilty because Maria Clara betrayed him to protect her dark family secrets, that his real biological father is Padre Damaso. In the falling action, after giving his final remarks to the love of his life, Maria Clara, he gets into the boat with Ilyas. While they have a long discussion about the Philippines' corrupt system, they noticed they were being followed. As bullets passed by them, Ilyas told Ibarra to meet him where his grandfather was buried and quickly jumped into the water, confusing the pursuers. In San Diego, Maria Clara told Padre Damaso that she couldn't marry Liners as she only loves Ibarra. But Padre Damaso showed a newspaper showing that Ibarra is dead. She instead entered a nunnery. Let's go to the theme: colonialism, religion, power, revolution, reform, and education. In the colonialism, religion, and power, Rizal's political novel Noli Me Tangere examines how Spain's colonization of the Philippines allowed the church to dominate and rule the region. Colonialism produced tensions that would, roughly a decade after Rizal's novel was published, lead Filipino natives to revolt against Spain's oppressive religious and governmental bodies in the Philippine Revolution. In the Revolution and Reform, because the Spanish friars and Spanish colonial government had such control over the Philippines, Rizal naturally focuses much of his attention on the possibility of political change. He outlines two schools of thought for making political change: the moderate liberalism embodied by Ibarra, and the radical revolutionary ideology espoused by Ilyas. In the part of education, Rizal holds up education as a way of overcoming oppression. Ibarra, who is a respected figure because of the fact that he studied in Europe, firstly advocates the importance of intellect and education by building a school in San Diego. In doing so, he seeks to give the townspeople a means of empowerment outside the context of the church. Lastly, we go to the point of view. Noli Me Tangere is predominantly narrated in the third person, with occasional shift to first person plural. The narrative follows a generally linear plot with occasional shifts that provide historical context. That's all. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you learned something.